Railway visits Africa. This time we go to South Africa, probably the most talked about country in the continent. Once rejected, now embraced. Never before has the world so quickly changed its mind about a country. Since the disappearance of apartheid, South Africa is strongly advancing on all fronts. At some points pulled by an old steam locomotive, we'll travel through the country with its fabulous scenery. We'll arrive in Cape Town with the Table Mountain as its background. Hidden in clouds, we'll detect large vineyards. We'll visit the Dutch houses that have been beautifully restored. We'll travel 1,600 kilometers from Pretoria all the way down to spectacular Cape Town. Pretoria was once known as the capital of apartheid. For decades, many white governments were seated here. Not until the inauguration of President Nelson Mandela on the 10th of May 1994 did Pretoria lose its bad reputation. One of President Mandela's predecessors was Paul Kruger. He was sworn in on the church square in the city's center. Kruger was one of the Boer leaders who stood at the cradle of present-day South Africa. His government was seated in the old council chamber. This imposing building was erected in 1883. Black children now play football in the park in front of the council chamber, where once only white children were allowed. Within walking distance from the church square stood Paul Kruger's residence. Today, the Boer leader's house is a museum. Where now broad streets are flanked by numerous monumental buildings, was once situated the settlement of Andreas and Wessel Pretorius. Both Boers founded the present city and called it Pretoria. Pretoria streets are still marked by the Boer past. Numerous monuments, streets, and graveyards were built by descendants of father and son Pretorius. The Victoria Hotel in the city's center is strangely enough the departure point for our train journey. Here the passengers gather who have bought a ticket for the luxurious Rovos train through South Africa. The guests are welcomed with music that actually contrasts sharply with the rhythm of the city of Pretoria. The Victoria Hotel used to be called the Station Hotel. Here the wealthy gathered for their rail journey through the country. The passengers' baggage is brought by hand to the train. Lifting was not done in colonial days, nor do the passengers need to get tired now. On arrival at the station, the guests find champagne awaiting them. The train that is to leave in a few moments is by no means ordinary. The Rovos is the African variant of the Orient Express in Europe. Whoever buys an expensive ticket for the Rovos is really pampered. The carpet is rolled out, and the hostesses take the passengers to their compartments. While another train is arriving, the pride of Rovos gets up steam. The Tiffany, a locomotive more than 100 years old, sits shining in the station. It's 5:30 in the afternoon when the Tiffany starts up, groaning and puffing, the sun low above the horizon creating beautiful shadows. We have left for the first stage of the train journey on our way to Kimberley, about 500 kilometers further on. The Rovos train also consists of a number of splendid antique carriages. Rohan Vos, proprietor of Rovos Rail, traveled throughout South Africa in his search for old carriages. The collection he eventually hitched together is the dream of every train hobbyist. The 50-year-old observation car at the end of the train is a real gem, even in its own right. We travel through the province of Transvaal. In the 18th and 19th century, this province attracted many white farmers. They came for the fertile soil in which virtually all crops grew without problems. When darkness descends, champagne is provided for a nightcap. The carriages are basically like hotel suites. Mahogany, cherry, leather, everything is equally luxurious in these carriages, originally built in the 1930s. Rocking pleasantly in the large bed, we find that night is quickly passed on board the Rovos. The sun appears early in the cloudless sky. The vast landscape passes uninterruptedly while breakfast is being served in the dining carriage. The menu card promises much good food, and the beautifully renovated carriage makes this journey a fantastic experience. Going southward, the landscape has become less green. In the meantime, we've entered the province of Kimberley and beginning to approach the city of the same name. At the Kimberley station, the Rovos stops for a few hours to provide opportunity for the passengers to see the Diamond City. Kimberley owes its fame to the discovery of diamonds in 1869. In 10 years' time, the city changed from an agricultural village to a modern metropolis. The wealth derived from diamonds brought electricity to Kimberley even before New York City. This electric trolley has been operating for some time already. We pass the old head offices of the De Beers Company in Stockdale Street. The world's most important diamond concern has been situated here for more than a century. From a relatively small office, the Englishman Cecil Rhodes started building his diamond empire. De Beers Company managed to gain and stay at the top of the diamond industry. Each year, the company directors come from New York, Hong Kong, Zurich, and Amsterdam to these offices for a directors' meeting. Nearby the Beers Company is an open-air museum. Here you can see how exploration for precious stones took place in the past and in the present. Tourists are able to try it too, but they never seem to find this sort of stone. These stones look like colored gravel without value, but after treatment they're shipped all over the world. The museum also contains restored houses and shops. Near every mine, there was a little village. Originally, they were open to black and white laborers alike, but because of a fear of theft, the proprietors soon began to issue passes for the colored employees. A few black landowners also had to hand over their concessions to the white. These were the first signs of the coming apartheid. Now the quiet village seems almost charming, with its painted signboards and quiet streets. In the mines of Kimberley, millions of dollars worth of diamonds were found. There are still 3 mines in operation where precious stones are being extracted. The biggest mine, Big Hole, has been lying abandoned since 1914. The journey to Matjesfontein is a long one, about 700 kilometers. After a leisurely lunch, there's time for relaxation in the lounge. For the passengers, it's a good opportunity to rest. For hours in succession, we roll through the extensive landscape. The region is called Karoo. It means thirsty land. A birthday party on board. The person who is celebrating is able to treat his guests to a banquet, for the chef on the train can serve a splendid dinner. As the view disappears into the dark, the passengers amuse themselves in the traveling 3-star restaurant. The sun has not yet appeared when we discover that the train has stopped. We are now near Matjesfontein. Upon asking, we learn that we have to wait for another train to pass us. The colorful splendor of the rising sun makes waiting worthwhile. The mountaintops of the Karoo are covered with red earth. Here it is always hot, and hardly anything grows. The hills, the way they are situated, are the spine of South Africa. They reach from the middle of the country far into Ethiopia. After half an hour, the train we've been waiting for passes. After the antique carriages have been admired, we can continue our journey. Soon the train arrives in Matjesfontein, a village that owes its existence to the railway. Here travelers used to stop to recover from their journey. The trumpeter invites us to a bus tour. A double-decker bus is waiting for the passengers. A tour is an overstatement for a trip through the two streets of the village. However, the villas of Matjesfontein make it really worthwhile. They are lovely Victorian buildings. For example, the mayor's house hidden behind the palm trees. The man is the grandson of the founder of the town, Jimmy Logan. The few buildings of Matjesfontein have been almost all established by Logan. The Scotsman originally worked as station master in Cape Town. He soon saw that money was to be made here. Travelers between Cape Town and Johannesburg had to be able to rest somewhere, eat, and make purchases. Logan proved right, and passing travelers still come here to recuperate. Jimmy Logan made Matjesfontein his own mini-town. The shops, the bank, and the church were built by this uncrowned king of the village. The church from 1895 is no longer in use, but is still in splendid shape. Jimmy Logan himself originally came here to recover from asthma. The clean, thin air benefited his lungs, and undoubtedly he thought that others would want to profit from it. His beautiful hotel, now called the Lord Mindler, was visited by the rich from Johannesburg to Cape Town. While most of the passengers would love to spend a night in a hotel like this, it's time to head back to the train. A stone's throw from the hotel, the Rovos is preparing to go. The train is ready for the last leg of its journey. Now we're on our way down the country to our last destination, the spectacular city of Cape Town. There's about 300 kilometers to go before we shall arrive in Cape Town. They prove to be 300 beautiful kilometers. Slowly but surely we leave the rugged mountain behind us. We ride through the Hex River Valley. This valley is famous because of the wine that is produced here. The train travels through endless vineyards. It's difficult to imagine that all winter this whole area is covered by a thick layer of snow. In the train, the cooks are working on the last meal that guests will receive on this journey. It's to be a sumptuous three-course dinner with salmon and shrimp to start with.
A real close-up.
As has been the case throughout the whole journey, nothing is lacking. The marvelous food served with wine from the area we're speeding through. The Rovos is indeed no ordinary train. Just before we arrive in Cape Town, we stop briefly at the farmhouses along the railway. Built by Dutch farmers, they're called Dutch houses. Being far away in South Africa, they gave their houses an ornamental Dutch front in order to remind them of their place of birth in Holland. From the green wine fields of Blauwklippen, we move to the clouds in which the symbol of Cape Town is enveloped, the Table Mountain. This colossus of sandstone towers high above the city where the Europeans of the 17th century came to anchor. For a long time now, Cape Town has not just been the old port that received seafarers to restock their ships. It is now a modern metropolis that combines old buildings from a famous past with up-to-date offices and residential areas. The city was once called the Inn of the Seas, and even now you'll find numerous hotels here, except that they become far more luxurious.
Good morning.
The luxury of modern Cape Town is amply demonstrated in a hotel lobby that would not look out of place in Paris. The most favored spot for tourists is the Victoria and Albert waterfront. Besides the luxurious shopping center, the beautiful harbor itself is very popular. Replicas of sea vessels that once moored here bob up and down in the water. This is the Captain's Building, where in the 18th century, skippers of the British fleet shared experiences with each other. While a fishing boat travels out to sea, we visit the place the seafarers look forward to for months. The Cape of Good Hope, right at the end of Africa, is also the end of this episode of Rail Away. For our next rail adventure, Rail Away visits Hungary, from stately Budapest to the hot pools at Lake Balaton. And we also follow the route of a train run by children. Next in Rail Away.